Have you ever looked at a font and thought, I could make that, or I could do something cooler than that one? Well, today we're testing that theory out twice.
We're both making a custom typeface using two different approaches.
I'm going to be taking an existing typeface, making changes to it, and adding some texture and character to give it a whole different vibe.
For me, I am making a custom digital typeface of my own handwriting.
Along the way, we're going to try to not lose our minds as we stare at the same characters over and over and over again and realize how ridiculous looking our alphabet is.
But by the end of this video, we'll both have a fully functioning new typeface, and we'll show you how to make one too.
Alright, now before anyone jumps into the comments and hits us with the classic, well actually, a font and a typeface are a different thing, well, I mean, you're 100% correct. So here's the technical explanation for all of the design nerds out there.
A typeface refers to the group or family of font, so think like Garamond or Times New Roman or Helvetica, things like that, where a font refers to the style within that typeface, so within that family. So for example, Garamond Bold versus Garamond Regular or Italic or any of the weights of the font. So that's kind of a very basic definition of the difference between a typeface and a font.
We definitely use the words interchangeably, and they're kind of interchangeable on a very generic level, but I just wanted to clarify, we do know the difference, so please don't get too mad at us in the comments. Alright, so let's jump into my process for making a custom typeface. I'm going to use Calligraphr, which is a free program. I have used it many times and I find it the most convenient out of all of the typeface creators I've used. So what you're going to need to do is make an account. Once you set up your account, you can choose the language option as well as how many glyphs or characters you want to use. I'm personally using the free version, which only allows for 75 characters or glyphs. After that, you can download your template. I'm actually going to download two versions, one with the characters as the background, and then one without that. Once I have the template set up, I'm going to set up the typeface that I'm going to use as sort of a starting point. I'm going to use a receipt printer. This is going to help add some texture and character to this typeface with the interesting way that thermal printing works on a receipt printer. Before printing, I want to point out something important. The existing font you use needs to allow for modifications within the typeface license when you download it. Always double check all of the legal stuff when you're doing design. You don't want to run into some sort of, sketchy thing and end up getting into some sort of legal trouble. Once I have everything sized up correctly, I'm going to print the characters. After printing, I cut up the receipts and tape them onto a piece of paper. This allows it to be able to read easier. Sometimes the receipts roll up if they're too long, and so having it taped to the paper helps it to not only be more legible to the scanner, but also maintain shape so it doesn't get all funky when you're in there. Unless that's something you're looking for, in which case it would be a really cool way to create an interesting typeface, so somebody try it out and send it to me. You want to scan it at least 300 dpi, but I would recommend higher, 600, even 1200, so you can make sure to capture as much of the texture as possible. Now it's time to digitize. In Photoshop, you're going to remove the background and isolate each letter. One trick I learned the hard way is to straighten out all of the letters at the same time before you isolate them. It saves a ton of work later. I also adjust the contrast using the levels menu so that the shapes are clear, but it still keeps that gritty thermal texture that I got from the printer. Then I arrange each letter onto the Calligraphr template. This part takes a while, so be patient with yourself. If you also have Illustrator, you can try image tracing this if you want a faster workflow, but Photoshop does a much better job in preserving the textures from the printer, in my opinion, which is what I wanted for this typeface. Once all the glyphs are placed, I go through and check the alignment. I make sure the letters sit correctly on the baseline and that they are centered enough to track and kern them properly. I am not being overly precise with this typeface because I want it to feel a little imperfect and handmade. The little inconsistencies add personality, but your preferences might be different. Now for the easy part, I upload the finished template to Calligraphr and let it do all the work for me. When the typeface is ready, it can be installed on your computer. Here's how to do that. Download the font file, double-click it, and click to install the font in your font book. That's it. Once it's installed, I'm going to bring it into our title card template so I can show you exactly how this typeface works in our design. This is where you can really see the textures and the weird quirks doing their thing. I had to make some adjustments to some of the effects layers in order to bring out the textures a little bit more in this template, but once I got it all sorted out, it looks incredible.
Okay, like I said, I wanted to make my handwriting a custom typeface, so I did a couple practice rounds, and on the practice rounds I was being like really conscious and careful about how I was writing my letters, and then I realized that it made it feel less authentic to me because that's not how I write, and so in this final round I really just tried to write as fast as I would normally be writing, so I didn't think too hard about the letters. And so I wrote out all my letters, and I didn't really pay attention to like where they ended up in the box, because there are lines so you can have, you know, the G where it hangs down versus like the D where that line comes up. I didn't pay attention to that super well, and so some of my letters got really wonky. The baseline grid is pretty much non-existent, but it's really cool because in Calligraphr you can actually adjust your baseline grid. I did a little bit of adjusting. I didn't want to do a whole ton because once again I wanted it to feel authentic to me, and I do sometimes just write letters, you know, my G's are up here and my D's are down here, like it just happens. And so I wanted it to feel authentic, but as you're creating typefaces, know that you can adjust that within the program, so that's really cool. So I did some adjusting of the baseline grid and then took out a little bit of weirdness that happened in a couple of my characters, and once I was done with that, my custom typeface was ready, and now I get to type in my own handwriting and see how bad my handwriting is. Anyway, this was a fun experiment. There's definitely some things that I think I want to redo this and re-upload my letters and try with different, you know, like try one with a marker versus a pencil. It's super easy to use, and it's a great way to explore custom typefaces in a way that doesn't feel super intimidating, because you can do something as simple as your own handwriting, or you can customize an already existing typeface. However you want to do it, it's a great way to explore and learn more about type. Let us know what you think of the fonts down below, and stay tuned because next time we are putting them to the test in a full-on design challenge.
Make sure to like and subscribe, because you're not going to want to miss this.